Further Review is brought to you by Consumers Beverages, Buffalo's beer store. Visit us online at consumersbeverages.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Further Review. I'm Ryan O'Halloran, along with Jay Skurski, Buffalo News, buffalonews.com. We are recording this Monday morning. No game for the Bills to review. They had their bye week, but plenty of stuff to look back on. And we'll also look ahead a little bit toward Sunday night's game against the 49ers. But Jay, let's start with the AFC. The Chiefs won, so they stay a game ahead of the Bills in the conference, 10-2 versus 10-1 versus 9-2. As you looked at some of these games, to me, who should scare the Bills right now? I guess we'll just boil it down to that question.
Well, I mean, let's see what happens with the Ravens, right? You've got the big Harbaugh Bowl coming up Monday night. As you mentioned, Ryan, we're recording Monday morning, so the results of that game will certainly be interesting in terms of AFC playoff positioning. Right now, the Bills are the 2 seed. You'd certainly want to avoid Baltimore as the 7 seed, and if the Ravens keep losing, they could find themselves down there. I don't think they'll drop that far, but I know we're projecting kind of pretty far ahead. Given the way that game against Baltimore went earlier this season, the historic problems they've had defending Derrick Henry, Baltimore is a team you'd want to avoid. I think that, you've written that before. Beyond that, I think, if Denver is the 7 seed, you take your chances against Bo Nix. I know that they've done some good things, but Sean McDermott historically has fared very, very well against rookie quarterbacks. And let's face it, if you lose a home playoff game to the Broncos, you probably didn't deserve to go real far in the playoffs as it is. So I think if you're a Bills fan, you're sitting there, you watch the Chiefs game that was on CBS yesterday, and you're probably as frustrated as ever because there's a game that, again, they had a chance to lose. Carolina comes back, ties the game. Pretty woeful Carolina team. You do wonder what it means for the Chiefs, though, going forward. We did a roundtable in Monday's Buffalo News, myself and you, Ryan, of course, along with Mark and Catherine. And one of the questions was, can the Chiefs maybe lose 2 games down the stretch here? If the Bills go 5-1, can they get the number 1 seed? I know they won yesterday, but that result, I don't know that you walk away from that feeling that they're unbeatable. I mean, clearly they struggled to beat a pretty bad Carolina team. So I think that might be the biggest takeaway is the vulnerability of the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, and Kansas City's got a tough schedule. They play Pittsburgh, they play Houston, they play the Chargers at home. And you look at that Week 18 game, the Bills play at New England. The Chiefs play at Denver. Denver's going to be playing for something, either to clinch a spot or maybe improve their seeding. So I think the number 1 seed is definitely in play for the Bills. And you mentioned the Ravens, you mentioned the Chiefs. I like the Chargers. I think they're trending in the right direction. They play tough defense. Jim Harbaugh has that toughness instilled in that locker room already. Justin Herbert's playing lights out. So I think the Chargers as a 6 seed would be a very dangerous opponent for a 3. Like it's Pittsburgh. And then if they're the 5, they would be favored over Houston in that road playoff game. So, the Bills stand at that number 2 seed. They got to like their position. They have Niners, Rams, Lions before they really get into that soft underbelly of the AFCs with Patriots, Jets, Patriots to finish it up. So it does set up pretty well for the Bills if they can just take care of their business.
Get your cold beer here at Consumers Beverages, where you'll find the largest selection of craft, specialty, import, and domestic beer. Consumers Beverages has the fastest empty container returns at all 18 locations. Visit consumersbeverages.com, Buffalo's beer store.
And Ryan, one of the big takeaways league-wide came very late Sunday night with Saquon Barkley running absolutely wild for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Rams. I think, inserted himself right into that MVP conversation. Josh Allen's still the betting favorite. Bills fans probably don't want to hear this, but, if this was a year that you look at a non-quarterback winning it with what Barkley is doing and the stage on which that he did it last night, I think, that momentum is picking up here for maybe a non-quarterback to win it, and maybe Saquon Barkley is that guy this year.
Yeah, you hit it, the stage. That's how MVPs are decided. They're decided on prime time, and people may not like that, but Philadelphia is going to be on that stage a couple more times this year. They get a 4:25 game at Baltimore this week. If he can run against that Raven defense, that'll only increase his candidacy. And what's helping Josh Allen, what's helping Saquon Barkley is Kansas City leads the AFC. Patrick Mahomes does not have an MVP year. Detroit has won 9 in a row. Jared Goff, do you really see him as an MVP? I think that's more of a sum of the parts team. So, if Josh Allen can have a good game Sunday night against San Francisco, then they're in a 425 slot against the Rams and then a 425 against the Lions. If he can win these next 3 games to sort of set him up for the stretch run against the division teams, I think Josh Allen has a great shot. But right now, when you're Saquon Barkley, in any MVP, if it's a non-quarterback, you need that one gigantic game. And Barkley got it last night, over 200 plus yards rushing, nearly 300 yards total offense. So if I had to handicap it right now, I'd say Barkley's the favorite and Josh Allen is second. But I do think it's a 2-man race.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Ryan, there's time here, right? There's still 6 games left. Seeding for the playoffs is going to be big in this. Allen has the chance to respond on the national stage on Sunday night. That Bills-Lions game, imagine saying this 5 or 10 years ago, is a potential. It's going to be talked about as a Super Bowl preview. That's going to have a ton of eyeballs on it. So if Allen goes out and does something like that, I think there is, if it has swung in favor of Barkley right now, there's time for it to swing back if you're a Bills fan in terms of the MVP race. Real quick, and I know this is slightly off topic, but I feel like we've got to address it. With what Barkley did and the way that the Giants lost yesterday, do you think that Shane and Brian Daboll are even closer to the hot seat than maybe they were before?
Yeah, I think it's on fire right now. And going with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, where you skip Drew Lock, and I covered Drew in Denver. He struggled, but he at least has like 25 starts of experience. That was peculiar. And okay, why'd you sign him to be the number 2 if you don't trust him to start a game? So that was number 1 this week. That was weird. And then losing to Tampa Bay, getting blown out by Tampa Bay off your bye week. The players' comments after the game, soft as bleep, got the bleep kicked out of us. Another soft comment. To me, that means you're losing the room. I think it's going to be tough sledding for Brian Daboll. And if I'm Joe Shane, I got to be worried too that it may be a total house cleaning.
Yeah, I don't think anything happens before Thanksgiving because they play on such a short week. But with the break after the Thanksgiving game, you wonder if it goes poorly on Thursday against Dallas, if maybe a change is made as soon as the end of this week.
Yeah, and I would say Brian would be probably the top of the OC list because I don't think anybody would really hold Daniel Jones against him. I mean, that's trying to make chicken salad there, and he did that first year. But Joe Shane, a lot of GMs in this league get one shot, and if you're Joe, you got to hold out hope to say, hey, hang on to me, I'll go find a coach. But the Barkley thing is going to be in their figurative obituary if both men are fired. All right, Jay, coming out of the bye, a lot of things going right for the Bills in all 3 phases, but we're picking nits here at 9-2. What would be at the top of your list that things they gotta really examine?
I'm still concerned about the run defense. I'm going to continue to be concerned about the run defense. I feel like when you look at some of the upcoming opponents and the running backs that they're going to face, Christian McCaffrey, obviously, first up, but then you go to Kyren Williams with the Rams, a very strong player. Gibbs and Montgomery for Detroit, 2 very good running backs. Even Breece Hall, right, for the Jets, who has given them issues at times. And this is looking ahead maybe even more so than just the regular season, but the postseason. And it's a guy we talked about earlier. Derrick Henry looms large, right, and how they stop him. Even if it is the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco, they're a different offense, I feel like, when he's in there, even though Kareem Hunt has done a nice job filling in for Kansas City. I have not been blown away by the performance of the Bills' defensive tackles this year at Oliver and Daquan Jones. I feel like they've been all right. But really physical, tough running games that can control the clock and keep that Bills offense off the field until the Bills prove otherwise. And they have at times, right? Seattle, they were excellent against the run. But I don't know that the Seahawks have a running back that's in the class of any of those guys that I just mentioned. So that is going to be the number 1 concern for me going forward, especially when you consider the weather, the conditions, the importance of the running game. I know it's cliche, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear it, but it does take on an added significance in December and January. Along those lines, Ryan, weather is a factor for beyond just the offense and the defense, and I have a feeling that it might impact your number 1 concern moving forward as well.
Yeah, and that's got to be kicking game. You watched games yesterday, and extra points are fiasco. Field goals are fiasco, and so it's block kicks, it's bad snaps, it's wayward attempts. So Tyler Bass, he's been up and down. Let's face it, and that extra point against Kansas City loomed large for about 50 minutes of that game after that opening touchdown. So can he find the groove he had about a month ago and reach a level of consistency? He has experience kicking in this weather. He should know how the winds work. But in his favor, LA's an inside game, Detroit's an inside game. So those are a wash. But you're always on the edge of being really concerned about Tyler Bass, but then feeling somewhat comfortable. But I want to hit on your run defense real quick. Is one of Sean McDermott's great phrases is you can feel a player during a game. When do you ever feel Ed Oliver? And for the money he's being paid, and it's almost like when he makes a play, it's like, holy cow, he made a play. And that's not how it should be. You feel Greg Rousseau on the edge. You feel AJ Epineza on the other edge more and more. So, and one thing that Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott did at the end of the Chief game is they went 3 linemen, 2 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. They used Dorian Williams as a spy. I would almost go to that a little bit, is because Dorian Williams is a good run defender. Just tell Dorian, see ball, hit ball, and maybe that gives some athleticism and some impact in the run defense. But I agree with you. If you had to rank them, I think it'd be run defense number 1 by far.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the kicker too. I think that obviously the 61-yarder for Bass was a great kick, one of the great kicks in franchise history. One thing, though, that is important to mention is that it was a tie game, right? If he misses, it goes to overtime. They don't lose. You wonder, what kind of pressure's on him if they're down a point in that situation. Does that impact it at all? I don't know. It was disappointing, though, to see him come out and miss that kick against Kansas City because he had followed up the kick against Miami with a good game against Indy, indoors, of course. The roof was closed in Indy, but he performed well, and you thought, okay, he's finding it. And then all of a sudden he goes out against Kansas City, and it kind of reopens all of those questions. And Ryan, we should, as we do every Monday, look ahead to the upcoming opponent. And for the Bills, that is the San Francisco 49ers, nationally televised Sunday night football game. I think the shine on this game has come off just a little bit given where the 49ers are. Going into the year, you would have thought maybe this was a Super Bowl type preview game. Largely due to injuries, the 49ers are maybe the biggest disappointment in the NFL to this point. The one saving grace for them is they're in a pretty bad division, so they're still alive. But when you look at the success, they're under 500 at this point. They're coming off of a blowout loss to the Green Bay Packers. What do you make of this 49ers team right now that's going to come in with some desperation?
Yeah, I think they're a total disappointment. They're 5-6. They're still 1 game out of the division. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot in the NFC. They haven't been able to finish games. I mean, they lost to Arizona at home. They lost to Seattle at home. That shouldn't be what the 49ers are about. They've lost some guys to injury. And Brock Purdy, the quarterback, did not play against Green Bay. But here's where the 49ers have an issue on defense. They can't stop anybody. Green Bay rushed for 169 yards. Josh Jacobs, 106 yards on 26 carries on Sunday. So I think this should be a James Cook game with mixed in a little bit of a Josh Allen keeper game. And just, the weather could be December 1st weather here in Buffalo at a night game. So to me, that's control the clock, run it. And then Green Bay held it for 36 minutes, 43 seconds. Don't even give the 49ers a chance with Samuel, with McCaffrey, with Kittle, with Jennings. They have good players on offense. Don't even give them any hope. And basically, I don't think you end the 49ers season, but you sink them further down the standings while moving to 10-2.
Yeah, I think one thing that does, I guess, maybe concern me a little bit is, number one, there is talent on that roster. You just ran down the list, right? There's a lot of talent on that roster. We'll see about the injuries. Bosa, to me, is maybe even bigger than Purdy, just because of what he can do off the edge. Really interesting to see the line in the game against Green Bay. I think only moved 2 points when they ruled Purdy out. That's pretty crazy, right, for a starting quarterback. You would think there'd be more shifting involved there, but they're a desperate team. They need a win to potentially save their season, as you just mentioned. But given where they're at, Ryan, I feel like, and this is a big ask to, they were at Green Bay. They got to go back to San Francisco, then travel across the country to Buffalo. It's a lot of travel. This is a tough spot for the 49ers. The Bills, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you have it in front of you, I think are undefeated off the bye under Sean McDermott. So they've been very, very good in this spot, in this situation. The Bills obviously have to keep pace with the Chiefs, right? Because as you mentioned earlier in the show, that number 1 seed is still alive. So they don't want to stub their toe here against a beat-up opponent either. So this is a game that, we'll get into obviously a lot more as the week goes on and we get back out to One Bills Drive. But, looking at it on the surface, you would say going into the year, this looked like maybe one of the most difficult games on the schedule. I think it's less than that at this point.
And, the way I give the 49ers a puncher's chance is when the Bills went to Kansas City last year, and they're 1 loss away from their season being over. Yeah. They rallied, they rose up, and maybe the 49ers will have that same mentality. They should come to Buffalo with nothing to lose. Leonard Floyd could have an impact. He played for the Bills last year, so getting Bosa back would help. So, the Bills should be favored, but it's going to be a challenging game, I think.
Yeah. Well, we will be back bright and early next Monday to break it down, and then, of course, look forward to a trip to Los Angeles for a game against the Rams. For Ryan O'Halloran, I'm Jay Skurski. Thanks for watching the latest edition of the Further Review podcast.
Consumers Beverages, Buffalo's beer stores since 1948. Find out what our latest deals are by visiting consumersbeverages.com.